Red Bull LAN Orlando Day 1. I'm joined by DJ Wheat here, and I am Day 9. We've gotten the chance to see Liquid Sheth play 2 games of his challenge against Protoss players that are opening air, and it looks like it's not going so well thus far, but there's some light, I'd say, at the end of the tunnel at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, to look at the games in progression and say, well, we saw the improvement, you know, I would just go back to game 1 where I feel like even based off of what Sheth was talking about that he wanted to focus on, there was already some like strategic thinking by him. You know, we saw the faster layer, we saw the faster hive. So I feel like he's already identified what he would like to do, and now he's just kind of testing the waters a little bit.
Yeah.
That is kind of the whole purpose of this thing. So, you know, to see it click and work, that would just make my day.
And now he's going to get the chance to play against HasuObs, another player who's known for enjoying the air openings. And this is a chance for Sheth to have some experience against some more different variety. Obviously, JYP, extremely strong Protoss player, but definitely way more aggressive than the way I generally see HasuObs play.
Sure. I mean, unless HasuObs like starts out from the beginning and says, I'm just going to be ultra aggressive. You're right. I mean, that's just typically his style of play. Interestingly enough, we were getting ready for the day. I saw HasuObs. I was so proud of him. He went as a very, very heavy air Protoss build that actually resulted in a fair amount of carriers, and he beat Idra earlier today on ladder. With this composition, and he instantly turned around and started talking about why he felt like it was still very valid and why he chose to go that way. But I think that HasuObs might have something even beyond the air opening, and we'll have to see if he actually throws any of that into play.
Yeah, I mean, any sort of transition out of this that would involve carriers is definitely something that's going to help throw Liquid Sheth for a loop. I wonder if Hasu, though, might back off from it, knowing that Sheth's practice requirements are more of the Colossus focus, that huge death ball. And it still brings up an excellent point where players like White Raw, like HasuObs, are starting to popularize this whole movement towards the carrier. As, you know, it's almost like a carrier drive. It's like, don't get rid of the carrier. You know, you're going to make a carrier 2012 video that'll go viral on YouTube.
Oh boy, that would make my day as well. So, all right, well, HasuObs is going to automatically be starting off differently from JYP. We saw, of course, we got the pylon block going down, not so much of the probe harass, but he's not going to throw down that Nexus first. He's just not, you know, some Protoss players not really comfortable with that. So we're going to see that Forge go down, and the probe will just continue to scout around, and of course, eventually this third hatch, or rather this second hatch at the third going down. Oh, and he's going behind that mineral line. Oh,
wildly different styles. And, you know, it's kind of funny because, at first I thought he was 100% going for cannons.
I thought so, too.
He still may very well be doing that. That's become increasingly popular. Just want to make sure you, at the very least, get an expansion up before you cannon rush them, because it's fairly bad manner elsewise. But, you know, we saw that Sheth had a little bit of clunkiness in the mid to late game, some really brilliant moments, some moments where he seemed to be falling behind right before his Broodlords came up. But you can never discount the fact that almost every Protoss is going to try to hit your third base pretty early in some way. Cannon rush, 4 warp gate with air, regular air with Phoenix. There's 1,000,001 ways that Zerg can be under pressure right from the get-go, and Sheth has to account for all of them.
Now, I'm also going to draw some comparisons between this game and what we did see from JYP. If you remember, the Overlords played, obviously, a critical role in scouting of that Stargate, and as a result, we saw a lot of those spores go up. And that there is a lot of area that the Zerg has to cover, especially when not being able to spread that creep, like you pointed out in the first game versus JYP. But this third base is going to go down, and you know, I expect to see the same timings on the checking for any sort of Stargate opening here by HasuObs, and then, you know, will we see a similar reaction? Will we see the spores go down? Will they continue to remain a part of his arsenal here on Daybreak?
You know, I'm curious how. I mean, I almost feel like at least some spores are reasonable. 10 seem total overkill, and I think it's, again, one of those psychological issues that happens in your gameplay where you say, I'm worried about air. I've been taking a lot of damage from air. How do I defend against air? And what do? You see air, and you're like, I'm going to make sure nothing can touch me, and you go crazy with it. And this sort of thing from Sheth is almost, I would almost say, don't do this in a practice match, you know. You want to give the Protoss as much of a reasonable edge as you can, so that way you can realistically be up against the best Stargate build that you can, because you won't always be guaranteed to do this.
Right, right. I mean, you know, at the same time, like, I think that his player sense kicked in, right? Like, oh, here's an opportunity for me to get these lings in, check with what's going on. I mean, he's doing a little bit of damage here, but he took advantage of the fact that Hasu's cannon was so forward. He was able to sneak in with only one Zergling going down, and, you know, he killed a couple of probes in the process. So, I mean, I completely agree with what you're saying, and, of course, it didn't really delay much, because here we, of course, have the Stargate about ready to finish up just at the top of the ramp.
You always have to be checking in for that tech at around the 6-minute and 30-second mark. Now, it looks like Liquid Sheth has not seen the Stargate tech, and the question is, will he sort of erroneously begin preparing for it without seeing it? 7 minutes is when Sheth always builds Roach Warren and Evolution Chamber, so he just hit the 7-minute mark. Would not be surprised to see both of those structures go down very shortly. There's the Evo Chamber. Here's the Roach Warren popping down to help him prepare for this, but still, you always have to be careful that you're not using the fact that you told your opponent to go air to help you identify his air build.
Sure, absolutely. And actually, he's going to find out here in just a moment without scouting, because the Void Ray will meet up with the Overlord, of course, getting hit, and that is going to be the indication. So are we going to see an abundance of spores go down as that Evo Chamber finishes up? So far, nothing here at the third. The creep is spread out much better than it was in Game 1 from the third, but not necessarily to the natural. So with the lair going up right now, it does not look like we have an overreaction, if you will. And maybe that was just one of Sheth's way of, I'm going to try something different. This is one of the things I'm going to do. And whether or not he felt like that wasn't effective, you know, he's just got one spore being built here, one inside the main, and one at the third. So he's cut that down considerably.
And there's the two queens coming up. Very, very nice timing by Liquid Sheth. So good. Managing to successfully repel that. And my hope at this point is that Sheth does not over-spore up, that he tends to get a little bit too defensive in a spot like this. Make sure he turns that off.
Now the Phoenix is still trying to find an opportunity to get in here, sniping some Overlords as they can. Notices the one Spine Crawler, and I mean, I really feel like obviously he's improved from this perspective and saying, okay, well, the 10 spores, it was a little bit too much. He is throwing another one in the back of the main. Actually throws another one in the back all over, and I don't know if that is some sort of indication that he believes that maybe that Phoenix play will continue, but we do not see any more coming from HasuObs at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is such an easy blunder to make. You're worried about air. You see some Phoenixes, but right now it looks like we see one Void Ray, 3 Phoenixes, and Hasu's done. He's not building any more air. There are more Spore Crawlers and Queens on the map than there are any air units from Hasu. So here he's going to do a little bit of quick pickup. And it looks like Hydralisk's making an appearance this game. Sheth won't be skipping him.
Yeah, in fact, the first 5 are about ready to pop out right now. And down at the third, you can see the creep continues to spread out just a little bit as the Phoenix just continue to harass. But the 2 Lings up here to watch for that third, great. I mean, the positioning of them was perfect. The units came in to check, and unfortunately, they weren't there to take out that probe, but he sees the Nexus and the Pylon go down. So he's very much aware that that third is now getting started for HasuObs.
Looks like we're seeing the mass upgrade by Sheth. He's doing everything gas-like that he can, getting +1, getting the Infestation Pit. I almost wonder if this should be a melee upgrade, given that he's really not going to be roaching so long. He's getting a very fast Infestation Pit, a fast 5th. It's cool to see Sheth accelerating the style of play that he did in Game 1 versus JYP.
Yeah, now, I believe it was right around 12:30 when he started to go up to the high, but now that he's got his Infestation Pit done already, is he going to start it even sooner? He's at 11:42 right now, and Macro Hatch is about ready to finish up. Maybe it's not quite time yet, but as he gets his Pathogen Glands upgrade, here we're seeing some units now get into a decent position, and I do like the positioning of these Hydralisks. Do they have range upgrade yet?
Looks like he just skipped out on the range.
Okay. So they're not going to do much damage, and that means that the Phoenixes will just kind of get to float here with minimal damage. But the Ling's running through. This was another strategy that he attempted in game number 1, but it didn't quite work out. That was mostly due to the amount of sentries that there were, just some of the blocking that happened. But yeah, I mean, do you think he's going to go in for the attack here at the third?
I think at the very least what Sheth wants to do is be comfortable threatening in it. You know, we were talking about this at the start. When the Lings got in the base, sure, that's great, but you almost want to give your opponent little tiny advantages. I'm going to move here and make you wall off and build the cannon, but I'm not going to try to just all in, try to kill it off. I'm going to try to do this sort of thing. But I'm almost happier with my learning if it doesn't go so well. You can almost always get some Lings in, but it's so important in practice to make sure you can get consistent results. For instance, if you barrowed some Banelings and killed off all the probes, you wouldn't always be guaranteed to do that. Good players are going to sweep and check that out. And here comes Sheth with some very, very nice spine crawler timing, Marcus. This is exactly what he needs.
It is, and you know, it corresponds with his Hive timing as well. The Hive is going to be up now in just a few moments, as it's already 75% complete. And what was it? Drones?
17 drones coming out right now. Look at this, 84 on the field.
Wow. That's quite a bit. So we've got, and like you mentioned, he's getting a little bit better with the spine crawler timing. We have the Phoenixes continuing to harass, which I love this from HasuObs, keeping those units very active on the field, scouting as well. But most importantly, they saw that Hive. So you know, he's going to be very well aware of exactly what's going on. Of course, Spire 2 coming out. So as he upgrades to the Greater Spire, possibly just really start pounding out the upgrades as far as that's concerned, too.
Oh, look at Sheth. I mean, I still think he might be over Spore Crawlering a bit, but this spine timing, this Infestor timing is just right. It's allowing Sheth to easily have enough up to deal with this push in a little bit more of a comfortable fashion. I mean, he is now getting the Corruptors up, obviously to get the Greater Spire units up, but now he can also pick off the Colossus, and it looks like Hasu might be shut down pretty hard at the south end.
Yeah, he's going to try to go in, and a couple good fungals here would actually put that army out just a little bit, but he decides, well, I'm going to reassess where I'm going to attack from, and in the meantime, we have a huge Ling run by right into the second and now into the third. They're going to immediately just target down that next.
Wonderful play.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, putting HasuObs behind by quite a bit here, but some force fields around the Nexus really limiting the surface area, and if he manages to save it, it really would be a great play from HasuObs. Oh my goodness, 54. And you know what? I guarantee you that Sheth said, I'm taking this Nexus down. There's no way I'm not going to get it.
There go the Zerglings. Again, it's that, man, I can never let go, Marcus. I can never let go. She hasn't returned my calls in 4 weeks. I'm going to call on week number 5.
And you know the shields are going up, which make it even worse, but now the Lings don't have a route to attack. So he's just going to check on the third, but it doesn't matter because the creep is down there anyway. But the Brood Lords now coming out. And, you know, at this point, let's talk a little bit about this, Sean, if you will, is that obviously moving those Broodlords across the map, very slow, very meticulous, along with his slow Hydras, his slow Infestors. So do you wait at this point for it to come in and continue with these fairly inexpensive Ling attacks? Or, you know, what do you do when you're set up and have that position? Do you push?
Sheth is continuing to do those sorts of Ling attacks. I think it's a good way to, at the very least, buy himself a little more time. But I think the big thing that, oh no, it looks like HasuObs didn't notice. Whoopsie daisies. And it looks like another attempted Ling run by, but HasuObs just keeps deflecting that. You know, at this point in time, what Sheth really wants to do is act like a giant ice cream scooper of doom. He wants to slowly move forward like a giant glacier, gobbling up expansions, increasing his Broodlord count, not really doing too much aggression or attacking, except with Zergling counters. I mean, Sheth could easily experiment with doing some kind of drop play or this sort of thing, but in all honesty, Sheth is playing quite comfortably at this moment.
Yeah, and really, I mean, I love the Ling play. He's actually going to bury just outside. I guess that was maybe a mistake, but we do see a potential move out here by HasuObs. He already has a forward pylon done. Is he getting the second one down? It does not look like it, but is he going to cancel? Is he going to cancel?
Oh, looks like he did let it finish.
He lets it finish, but meanwhile, we have this base for the Protoss going down to some Lings. More Lings are starting to funnel in, and that means that HasuObs is going to go ahead and back off, except for this one Colossus who's going to go in and fight everything on his own.
Well, that's a very brave little Colossus. Look at him. Wow, he's actually getting some nice kills. Oh, what? How is this happening? No way. That is the most heroically rallied, misrallied Colossus I have ever seen. Looks like he will end up retreating on his little gangly legs, but we're seeing Sheth has a very nice army composition, but he needs to focus on getting more expansions up. He's getting more Broodlords. He's getting more Infestors. You know, there was a time when people said, Broodlord Infestor, once you get it, good game, game's done, easy peasy, right?
Yeah.
But we're seeing that even as Sheth is getting them very, very quickly, he's still being smart enough to try to be passive. Hasu's having a very difficult time pressing forward.
Sure. All right, well, we have a Zealot attack going on here, but we had some neat play from Sheth here. We'll talk a little bit about in just a moment, having to get rid of these Zealots. And, you know, this is where the Lings, of course, become not so cost-effective. But he is going to clean it up at the loss of, you know, a few drones. They're about even on drones killed. But what happened over here in the main, Sean, is that he had burrowed 2 of those Lings, and now it looks like a cannon was going to go up. But not only did he kill a few more, but he idled almost every probe inside the main for a short amount of time. So, and here we have him not able to move forward and get that 5th. The question now is, like, again, he's got an enormous army here. The amount of Broodlords that he has is huge. The longer that he waits, is a Mothership going to come out? You know, is he going to have to deal with the Archon toilet? Like, what do you think? I mean, at this point, we see the Broodlords moving out. So, is this the time?
I mean, the one missing component, weirdly to this style, is creep. Sheth needs to have a lot more creep spread because it's not Broodlord Infestor. It's Broodlord Infestor for your gas and Spinecrawler Hatchery with your minerals. So without that creep spread, Liquid Sheth is almost all in with this attack. He really needs to get all those Spinecrawlers forward again. This is so much of the gas that he's collected all game long. And look at this nice spread with the Broodlords as Sheth begins to march forward. He has these Infestors underneath, but then they might be making themselves a little bit vulnerable. He should be extraordinarily careful at this point.
Yeah, and that's, you know, kind of what seems to be the most. And there is the Mothership coming out with this Broodlord count. He is going to start the siege on this base. That is a decent fungal that will stop a few of those Colossus and allow him to then focus down these cannons as well. And he's keeping all these other units in the back, only using the Infestors to really get a nice grab on the army. But he is forcing HasuObs back, and that 3rd is not up thanks to 1 burrowed Ling. So he was forced to build at this base, and it is now completely demolished.
Oh, great play by Sheth, pushing back more and more and more and more, but there needs to be some other link-up with this strategy. He is doing a good job killing bases and pushing back, but he needs to be harassing the main or taking more expansions. Nice Spinecrawler wall there, getting ready to deal with the counterattack, but that looks like it's exactly what HasuObs has in mind.
Now, the army for HasuObs isn't, I mean, it looks like we're just going to go into that base trade. This base is certainly going to go down, likely going to cancel. And here comes HasuObs. And look at, unfortunately, the Spinecrawler a bit out of position.
DT's now swinging into the natural expansion, and there's the huge pushback by HasuObs. Again, Spinecrawler is the biggest, most important component to staying alive with those counters when you are going Broodlord Infestor. We see the Stalkers blinking forward. Great decision-making by HasuObs, but it looks like Sheth is also nibbling away at these bottom expansions. We see Hasu also continuing to push. How will Sheth split his army? This is the hardest question with Broodlord Infestor. How do you deal with a Protoss who does these sorts of weird tactics?
And look at this, 2 Corruptors in the back actually now moving away, but they did, you know, some decent damage to the Colossus. Oh no, a couple of Infestors in the middle. One does get a fungal off, and the Broodlords make it there just in time for that fungal to not be wasted. However, the Mothership is on the field. Does it have enough energy for a Vortex? No. In fact, it's several seconds away from that actually happening. But with the Cloak and no detection, he's bringing up 3 Overseers right now. He's waiting to bring in these secondary units, and unfortunately, the Broodlords just cannot keep up. So he's going to try to cut him off, but that might leave his 3rd incredibly vulnerable. And the full, oh my gosh, he'll be so happy that HasuObs is moving back.
Wow, HasuObs, I think maybe giving Sheth a little bit too much credit in this situation. We're really seeing the vulnerabilities of Broodlord Infestor without enough Spinecrawlers there to defend. Hasu now getting up a bottom expansion, very brilliantly placed expansion by the Protoss. I mean, he was attacking and scooping down to the bottom right. Easy decision to take the southern position once he thought about where he was going to retreat. That takes some very nice planning by Hasu.
Yeah, so we've got now probes moving over as he's trying to occupy this base, and I like this idea from HasuObs to occupy this space. It's going to mean that, well, of course, if he keeps his army alive, he's going to have a nice little attack path over. And here he's going to set himself up defensively. A lot of Overseers here to try to kill those cloaked units from the mothership. One thing that's really lacking here, well, actually, no. How many Corruptors does he have as he is just stacking them? Oh, he's got 7 Corruptors. So it looks like HasuObs is going to have to abandon this position.
Uh-oh, he's trying to swing forward. He might have these Broodlords trying to be spread so not all of them get slipped into that vortex, but he has to be careful. If he has 5 out of position slightly, the other Broodlords won't be able to catch up in time to save it. And this looks like a confrontation that could potentially decide this match, as we see Sheth doing great in terms of size of army, has an incredible 140 supply, most of which are those Broodlords on the count of 17. But really be able to deal with this constant dancing by Hasu.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of dancing, even more so dancing with the Vortex. And we saw that pretty much in the game. And here we're going to see the first ones go in, but he didn't really get all of the Broodlords. The Corruptor's now going to try to swing around and target that mothership down while the Lings also run in, get those morphing Archons. We see the mothership down, all of his shields are gone, and it's all about what pops out of here as those Broodlords fall. He tries to get some transfuses, and he actually gets quite a bit. Some of those stay alive, but is it enough?
HasuObs just has so much ground potential. Ripping all that apart, the Corruptor count may have just been a little bit too low. Another nice Vortex. And Liquid Sheth, who managed to successfully get to that Hive Tech this game, to successfully get up this Broodlord Infestor army, might suffer a 3rd loss to this amazing Vortexing from Hasu.
Yeah, we have 10. Let's see, we have 10 Corruptors coming out. We have another base going up. Queen really trying to get out of there. And now where is the mining happening? All the way down here in the south position. Do we have another? Yeah, I mean, it's looking pretty good. It's 2 more bases going up for Hasu. And he's going to make his fight forward here. There are quite a few infestors, but just not enough fungals to make, in fact, the blink forward to try to just force it. Fungals will go down. The Corruptor's going to come out, try to get rid of those Void Rays and the Colossus.
Oh, the mothership. Very vulnerable, being left a little bit out of position. Hasu, a little over-eager, does lose the mothership. That's going to help Sheth a ton. Sheth has not yet lost the game, but it is looking fairly grim. It looks like he may very well have to abandon any hopes of rebuilding a Broodlord Infestor army. He's going to have to land nice Fungals and get his Roaches in a good position, and now is the time to strike. He does get the key Fungals that he needs. He does step forward. It looks like the Corruptors are a bit out of place, but they immediately begin working away at those Colossi, taking them down. Hasu continues to advance forward. Nothing but roaches being made by Sheth as Hasu gobbles up the top left side of the map and begins to rebuild that mothership.
It was really, really close, but it looks like the death blow about to be delivered here from HasuObs. Unfortunately, not having any Broodlords, despite the fact that the Corruptors actually turned out to be very, very helpful. There, the Infestation Pit goes down, and he does have a large group of roaches that's making its way over, but I mean, those roaches are going to be stopped short very, very quickly. Only 1 mining base here for Sheth at the moment, and that was one of the problems that he had in this game.
There's a good game. Sheth is unfortunately lost 3 games in a row to the same style. Now, in this point in time, I mean, you can first of all immediately see why Sheth chose this as what he wants to work on at this LAN.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, let's talk a little bit about it. You know, some of the differences, some of the things that we saw, the improvements. We saw the spine crawlers going down, I feel like, on a much better time. I think almost he ran into another problem. He's like, sweet, I've accomplished this. I'm doing what I've wanted to do. This is how I had it planned out in my head. On Daybreak specifically now, it seems like that forward 5th base, really, really hard for him to defend. A lot of that, you know, is like the timing of when those Broodlords come out and when the Protoss army is attacking. But it's just like a tough area to expand. And maybe going for it so quickly, you know, I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's kind of a weird idea that almost with a Broodlord Infestor army, maybe you shouldn't even be trying to put on pressure. You shouldn't even be trying to attack. Your primary goal should be to try to take as many bases as you can while working forward. We talked a little bit about creep seemed to be missing there. And I think that may have been the simple enough reason. Look, right there on the camera, we see Sheth watching the replay. He's looking at this because he did get the Hive Tech up. He got all the spines up. He took the 5th. All those pieces fell into place. This is both very, I guess I'll describe it as a very happy time for Sheth because he goes, ha, successfully got where I wanted to go. And now it's so disheartening because you're going, oh my gosh, this is not what I thought.
Yeah.
It's like the kid who begs his mom to go to Disneyland, and he gets there, and it's not what it chalked up to be, which is actually totally not true. Disneyland. It's awesome.
Not. It's totally awesome.
God, I love Disneyland. But the fact is, maybe it's like the Chuck E. Cheese's, your local Chuck E. Cheese's. You go there.
There you go.
The pizzas,
all the rides are broken. And
yeah. And I mean, this is a real problem that I think a lot of Zergs are struggling with. Protoss is now have a better developed army. They know how to deal with this Broodlord Infestor mixture.
I'd love also, even though, of course, the focus player is Sheth, I feel like the timing of the DTs for HasuObs was really great.
Very, very slick.
I mean, especially in the late game when any tech is possible, you just got to be ready. Having that Spore Spinecrawler combination is oftentimes enough to deal with that. But it seemed like that was just kind of a perfect little toss in there, so I really want to give him some credit in that. Yeah.
I mean, that was very, very nice. I guess I would almost call it late game move. It's very, very easy to say something like, oh, hey, you know what? I'm definitely the sort of player who just goes for my Colossus, Stalker, Mothership mix. That's it. Maybe I'll get some Archons, maybe not. But you know what? I don't want to push myself. I don't want to pull something. But no, you see him getting more Immortals after the fact. You see him getting more DTs after the fact, continuing to do those nice